Good morning, my creative friends. Dr. Minette Riordan here. This is Painting in Your PJs live with Minette. I am in my walking clothes this morning. I got out for a very humid walk and the hair's looking a little crazy curly this morning, but that's how we roll. And I am so excited. We are on day 3 of creating our personal oracle deck or deck of cards that is, can be used in a variety of different ways to support our personal growth journey. And if you're brand new to Painting in Your PJs Live with Minette, this series is all about how we can use art as creative process for self-understanding, for deepening our relationship for ourselves, for helping us discover more about where we are in our personal journey. For me, art is such a powerful tool to help us get connected to our hearts, to get out of our overthinking heads and reconnected to what really matters most so that we can create lives that are deeply meaningful and fulfilling. And I'm super, super excited to be here with everyone this morning. Welcome, welcome, Leslie. Thanks for joining me live. And I want to apologize because yesterday I ended my video for day 2 very abruptly. My daughter had just come home from university. I hadn't seen her since Christmas. I should have just said that live. Instead, I just quickly ended and got off, but was super, super excited to see her and couldn't wait another minute to go and give her a great big hug. So if you watch day 2 and the ending seemed a little bit abrupt, that is why. So I'm going to turn my camera over here and show you what I'm up to. So I have decided to create an oracle deck that is about different ideas and concepts of what I call a midlife renaissance. All the different things that we're thinking about, like creativity and spirituality and connection, and everything's beeping on my computer. I don't know why. I don't know if you guys can hear that beeping in the background, but it's annoying. And I've decided for this first pass anyway, that I'm going to work on sort of abstract faces. Doing faces is a big challenge for me. And I have a list of 32 words currently. We'll see if those faces evolve. If you know me at all, you know I love animals. So I'm seeing little animals starting to peek in already in some of the cards. So we'll see where the journey takes me. I'm going to make faces until I think, oh, I can't make them. But I have to tell you, I woke up this morning like so excited to come down here and start painting, and I had to wait until it was time to paint with you guys. Yay, Marion, I'm so glad you're back. Good to see you, my friend. And so this was the face I started with yesterday, and then this morning I did add a few more details to that face, got my poscas out, and I really, really love her. And right now, I don't know which one of my words that she connects to, and it doesn't really matter. So I've decided to just go for creating a bunch of faces and see where we get to. So I'm not sure, but I'm super excited about it. And this was the face I started yesterday. And this morning I came back in with just a black, what I'm hoping is a permanent marker. I think the Molotow should be, or this is the Sakura Mono Twin and oil base marker. We're going to find out if it's water soluble or not, but I love these for drawing. They're fantastic. And we're going to add some paint to this Chicky Poo and see if we can finish her up. I love the gentleness of her face. And I had shared yesterday that I spent about an hour yesterday morning just sort of practicing drawing abstract faces and realizing I'm going to need to do a lot more of this, that I really am appreciating doing the practice, getting the sort of, outlines and designs, kind of seeing what it is that I like. Some of them are really kind of crazy. Like, this was a fun one with lots of patterns added to it, but in the sketch, she's a little creepy looking. So this one's maybe a little too Picasso-ish, this one too. So somewhere that's, maybe a little more pop arty. So I'm still trying to find what is going to be my voice and my style for these cards. I really like this lovely here as well. And this one is kind of a crazy abstract too, but it's really kind of fun and wonky. So I'm probably going to try a few different things and just see where I can get to. Come on, Georgia. Come on. Miss Georgia is going to come participate and sit in my lap this morning. And I have, if you're new to watching this and haven't watched the first couple of parts of the video, I am working with a very specific palette. And I have chosen, get that open without it spraying all over everything. I have chosen this palette because I want, even if the art changes, I want the deck of cards to all feel really cohesive. I want the colors to go together. I want there to be symmetry between the things that I'm doing. So I'm working with one of my favorite palettes, Azo Yellow Deep by Amsterdam. It's one of my favorite yellows. This is a Liquitex Basics Turquoise Blue. And then I have a Liquitex Heavy Body Quinacridone Magenta because I'm out of the medium body. But yum, that palette makes me so happy, and I can create all the colors of the rainbow with just these three primary colors. And then I have a little bit of black and some white for varying tones and shades of things as well. So super excited to dive in. And of course, for me, the fun part is always coming back and adding these details. And so I'm really happy with the way she turned out. I did come in with some little pops of neon orange and some bright pink. Added the little owl here. So I'm pretty happy with her, but I figure by the time that, I create a couple of dozen of these, I'm going to start to find my style. At least that's my plan. And what's so fascinating is this is like doing the 100-day project is just noticing where I am on the journey with my own comfort level with painting faces, which is not very high. And I'm feeling like maybe I want to bring some green into the background here. So remember when we're mixing a color to always start with our lightest, tiniest little bit is all it takes to get that green started. And that's a beautiful green. Probably not quite enough of it. So when we were mixing colors on day one, that was one of the concerns that came up was, knowing how to mix enough of a color or to take notes and sort of start to create formulas, which is what a lot of artists do. Personally, I just kind of wing it, right? Like that was probably 3 parts yellow to a half of a part of blue to get that color. All right, and this is going to allow me to see a little better some of the spaces on the page and what's going on here. And I picked the green because it's, red and green are opposites, so this is going to create a little bit of contrast. I think she needs a little bit more hair over here, so we'll come back and paint that back in. And I think I want this little birdie here maybe to be a nice bright yellow so that he really stands out, which means he's going to need to get painted white first. And then I will add the yellow over the white to make sure. I want my brush to be nice and dry so I get a nice opaque color. But if I put that white down first and then come back and add the yellow, I'll get a much more vibrant yellow. So I got to cover up some of that darker magenta. Could have probably used a little bit smaller brush. I'm so happy that my daughter is home for 3 weeks, and next week we are leaving on Wednesday to go to Yellowstone. So I'm thinking that I will probably be live Monday, Tuesday next week, and not sure what our schedule is going to be when we're in Yellowstone. And I might go live here and there from Yellowstone when I have some downtime, but it won't be super consistent, and I might not. I have no idea what Wi-Fi will be like in the old lodge that we're staying in or anything. So Let's get that shape of her head going there a little bit better. It's been a busy summer, and after this trip, I'm home until the end of September, so it feels good to kind of maybe not. All right, that feels a little better. I kind of like that little shaggy haircut, and I'm wondering maybe I want to bring a little bit of that sort of shag look over here on this side too, give her a little bit different hairstyle, kind of fun. Thanks, Marion. I miss you guys when I'm gone. I miss the process, and I miss my studio a lot when I'm gone also. And we're traveling with two young adults who sleep in a lot later than we do. So we'll see. I might just do some fun lives of Yellowstone and the things that we see. And I will certainly take lots of photographs as I always do. All right, it's going to take a couple of coats to maybe cover up those black lines, but it's a start. So now I'm going to come in and start to work on her face and add some color. One of the things that I loved about this was the blocks of color. See if I move this over a little bit, if we can get it out of the glare, or that wet paint is super glary. Just work on those lights, turn that light down just a little bit. That's a little bit better, not quite so glary. It's probably not quite so bright either, but at least we don't have a crazy glare. All right, so when I went back in and I started to fix up the features, I need to sort of paint out where I had the lines of those features before, but I can also use that white to maybe start to add some highlights here, decide where I want to put a little more of that color. And she doesn't have a blouse on her. If she does, we can't quite see it, but I think I'm okay with that here. But I do need, something else going on to get all the way to that edge. And yesterday I painted backgrounds on these with some stencils, and which gave me just something to start with, but it also created some darkness underneath, so I might try something different with the next batch of cards, maybe some solid colors, or even starting just from white and seeing what might happen. All right. So I'm going to come in with some of these pure colors and just start having some fun layering in some colors. See how that yellow just is so much more vibrant over the top of the white than it is where I don't have that white. And Mr. Birdie needs his beak, but I might have to draw that beak in there and his little feet. Have to get quiet and focus on those details. So what I love about her is I really love sort of the peacefulness and the calmness. Maybe she's in deep rest right now, and maybe the birdie is waking her up. Maybe she's daydreaming. So I love the sort of restful look that's on her face. And I'm just having some fun with color blocking, right? There's no right or wrong. Remember, these are intended to be sort of, abstract. I think I'm just going to paint over that and I'll bring it back. To be abstract, imperfect. So I want it to have, character. think it needs just a little bit of orange on there. What I love about limiting my palette as well, that feels like a healthy challenge, is that it forces me to really be mindful of my colors, creating my own colors. I'm not just working out of a tube. So it creates that, just more originality in my art because no two people kind of mix colors together the same. Let's give him a little orange wing there. And it means that as I go through each of the cards, right, they're not always going to be exactly the same either, right? Let's see, that every time I mix colors, they're going to end up just being that little bit of different. Trying to get maybe a little brown going here. A little more fleshy toned. Mixing paint is such a fascinating proposition. Okay, we can bring those eyelashes back, but I want to get that paint in there. Just felt like she needed a little bit more neutral color in here, that she was getting a little too colorful, and I'll probably bring, some of that color back. And again, as always, this is such an intuitive process. I don't have a destination in mind. Um, yeah, great question, Marion. Yes, it's going to be an oracle deck all about the midlife renaissance concept and course that I've developed. It might become something I use in the course or something that I use personally, but I have a list of 32 concepts that I've pulled from the content of my course about the different things that we're thinking about, struggling with, challenged with, like vitality, um, connection, spirituality. I have a long list of words, and I did a lot of brainstorming. So if you go back and watch video one, I shared, the questions I asked myself for creating an oracle deck, and came up, and this was my palette play, and I came up with a whole list of words somewhere in my journal here to get me started, because I didn't want to just sort of go for it and not, have any kind of clarity or consistency. Sorry, that's really blurry. I created a list somewhere. Well, I can't find the list right now. I thought it was in this journal. It may be in the other one, or maybe it's just further back. But I do have a whole list of concepts, and I went through a variety of different themes. Okay, that doesn't matter right now. Oh, because I tore them out of the journal so I could find them. Ha! Yeah, so here's my list of concepts that I'm working with: goals, vision, spirituality, time, loss, change, commitment, celebration, experience, etc. And what I decided yesterday was that I wanted to make the faces first and then connect the word to the face. And I'm going to try that for a while. And ultimately, I might find that I actually need to go the other direction, that I need to start with a concept and then go from the concept to the face, but I don't know yet. So right now it's an experiment. I looked at a bunch of different card decks. I thought about a variety of themes and, some abstractions and different ways to approach the process. And what I decided was that I wanted to just make sure that I felt good about the style first of the painting. And so that's where I am right now, is really working on, what's the style and look that I'm going for. And so I'm still in the experimentation phase, I would say. Okay, definitely liking the bright blue. That feels like what she needed to really sort of pop her up here. She was starting to look a little dark, but I'm glad I put that sort of more, neutral tone underneath there. And I want them all to have that same look of the sort of bold black lines, lots of, texture and interest with marks. So I have a direction that I'm thinking about, and we'll see. We'll see if it works. We'll see if it sticks. Okay, I feel like I'm really loving this blue, and then I want more of that blue, and also it needs some pink, right? I think I need to brighten her up and bring the pink back, and I think her eyelids are a little too pink, but it's starting to come together. And I was reading some other articles and, watching other videos, and this is not my first Oracle deck. I've created a couple of others for personal use, and one that was a core values deck that I actually did, have printed and sell for a long time. It's kind of woefully out of date at this point, so I retired it. Someday I do want to do another core values deck. But so I love creating them, and I've always wanted to create one. And when I started thinking about, what would sort of capture this idea of midlife renaissance, faces definitely were what came to me as the most clear expression of that. And of course, faces are also the most challenging thing for me too. So I am in that place of, okay, I have to approach this right now as play and experiment, or I'm going to get all tangled up with my inner critic. And I definitely don't want that to happen. So this is my first week of just play and experimentation. And what can I create? And can I like stay connected to painting faces long enough to stick with it? So we'll see. I don't know. This is face number 2 out of possibly 32. And, when I did the 100-day project in the 100 days of animals, that felt easy, right? There's a lot of animals that felt like there was a lot of variety, and this feels different. All right, she's coming together a little more slowly, but she's getting there. I think I just need to brighten her up a little bit. I think I want this to be a little more subtle on her eyelids. And you notice I'm going over a lot of my black lines, and that's totally fine. I will come back at the very end and do the black again. It just helped me see where I needed to focus, almost like creating a little mini coloring page right here on my little card was kind of the way I was approaching it. Yeah, definitely I would think I want her more, brighten her up a little bit. Somehow she got just a little darker than I would have liked. So again, I just have to keep playing and painting and adding layers just like I would on a bigger piece. So I was watching these, videos and reading articles and seeing other people's approaches. I took a great class a number of years ago with Kathy Nichols, who's an artist I love, um, on her approach to creating oracle decks. I had already created one at that point and have my own approach. But one of the articles that I read, she said, she would spend hours on each card. And I thought, oh, I'm never, it's not going to take that long. Well, my experience so far is that I am spending quite a bit of time on each of the cards. And that's okay. Like, I'm here for the journey. I'm not in any rush to get any of this finished. Okay, that's feeling better. She's interesting. It feels like a good base layer. Now I can kind of come back in with markers and pens and decide where I want to go next. Kind of feeling like maybe she needs some little bit of highlights in her hair here. And again, everything is just a base layer, right? It's all just a place of beginning. Anything I don't like can get painted over again. So I have this one spot of green here, and I now don't have any green anywhere else on her face, and I like the green. So I just want to see if we still got a little bit of that green we can access here. I just want to bring a little bit of that green back. So it feels like that green is in, multiple places around her face. I've kind of lost my orange there, but I have the, sort of the orangey yellow over here on my bird. But I'm just noticing the, where the colors are. And how they're lining up. It feels almost like that blue there is maybe even just a little too vibrant. Maybe we just need a little, soften that up a little bit. And again, I want it to be a face, but I don't need it to be realistic, right? I don't need it to be perfect. All right, I'm pretty happy with her hair. My birdie needs some details here, but I'm going to draw those details in. So I'm going to get this nice and dry and come in with my pens. I'm going to set my palette aside so that I'm not getting my, I'm always very conscious to not be drying the paint on my palette with my dryer. I'm tangled up here. Still not quite happy with the paint on her face, but I want to bring the blacks back first, and I think that's gonna, kind of help me make some different decisions. We'll see if this mono twin wants to go over the top of the acrylics or not. Seems to be pretty good. And I think once I can see some of that, definition again. This is an old pen. I might need to let me find a black posca here. I have a million black markers of all kinds everywhere. And then I can kind of see those features coming back. Make that heart a little bit bigger and we'll give it some color. And we're going to give our little birdie some feet and a little wing. Again, trying to keep things simple, almost a little bit cartoony or sort of pop arty. inside of her ear. And it's amazing how just adding those little eyelashes really give that look of having her eyes be closed. And I want to make sure, again, those black lines sort of match. You're so sweet. Thank you, Leslie. It's Kathy with a C, and I don't know if that one is available, but she has them all listed on her website, and I can't remember if it's just her name or Kathy Nichols Art. But yeah, it's a lovely, lovely deck. Her art, just all of her art is really beautiful. All right, so we're going to come in with some color. I might want that little heart to be gold. And this is just kind of a nice bright pink that's going to let me brighten some of this up. A little bit. Already it's changing by adding the I think I like the Kathy Nichols ones because she calls them story cards and they're prompts, right? Which is kind of my vision for this one too, as they become less of a, predictive sort of oracle, but more as prompts for your own creative process. So I have all kinds of, names for the deck that I'm working on, but I'm seeing this as a prompt deck more than an oracle deck. Okay, now she's really coming together, feeling better about it. So I either need this color to be a little more blocky, right? So I have this funny sort of hard line here, or I need to smooth it all out a little bit. I'm also seeing that I think I want her cheeks to be a little bit lighter pink. So we're gonna maybe soften that up. Well, that wasn't much lighter. And then we'll add just, little bits of color maybe in a few other places. Add a little shadow under the neck there. Thinking maybe I need to bring some little swatches of yellow and orange back to feel like it's all kind of just still blending. And because I'm using the same palette, right, and I'm not trying to make the same orange from different starting colors, it should all end up being approximately the same without having to agonize over it too much. So, people talk about not making enough of something. Well, as long as you know the colors that you started with, it shouldn't be an issue. You should be able to pretty consistently remix the colors. Okay, that feels a lot better. I'm really having fun with these color blocks. And for me, the thing that I love is always that adding the marks and the details at the end, so that feels important, and where I'm going to start to also create a little bit of that consistency, right, is with the adding similar marks to the background. And then she just needed that little bit of, more highlight. Okay, now I'm liking her. It just took bringing those lines back so I could see a little better what it was that I was doing. And I really love folk art style, and folk art often has that really dramatic, right? The bold black lines on it as well. But I want, to be making sure that the pieces are similar and that I'm using the same colors. So you can see I've used the same colors, but this one doesn't have all the sort of fun marks in the background. So I'm going to add more marks to this one to make sure that I'm continuing in with some of that symmetry. And I'm thinking this heart just needs to be a nice shiny gold right over the top of that pink. And then maybe just so we have, make sure these are the same, we're going to come in and add a little bit of that gold there as well. And I need some contrast on this guy, so I need to maybe find some different colors. And yeah, I think that orange is too close, so I'm going to come back. So my favorite neon acrylic paint markers are these Molotov makes great neons. They're one of the more expensive paint markers out there, but I really like the quality. Although I just got some new inexpensive ones, not in neons, but I may try their neons too, because I've been really pleased with them so far. And when I was in Pennsylvania last week, my friends took me to a place called Art and Recycle, which had, this huge building full of used and new and, donated art supplies. And I got a whole set of these Molotov markers for like five of them. They were used for a great price, like for what it would have cost me to buy like one and a half. So that was pretty exciting. All right, so that's feeling fun, much cuter, getting some of that pattern in there. I'm thinking I want a little pattern on her blouse, and our birdie needs more of an eye here, and maybe he just needs a little more white on him to stand out. Nope, don't like the white. That's okay, we'll come back and go over it with something else. And sometimes with these black outlines, and things aren't popping, if you just add a black outline and a white outline, it's amazing, what you can create. And sometimes, again, just adding those little pops of white. Well, that's kind of white and gold now because I got some of that wet gold on there. Can really help things stand out just a little bit better. Minette. Hate it when I smear things. Okay. And if you were a black posca, where would you disappear to? There it is, right in the mix of all of them. Just go back where I smudged that. So I am so good at smudging things. All right. Yay, she's making me so happy. She is coming together nicely. I'm trying to decide, maybe we'll bring in some of the yellow and just get a tiny little bit of pattern on her blouse here. And this tip on this pen kind of has an interesting, funny little texture all its own. All right, so what I'm feeling is I need to stop, walk away from her, let her sit for a while. Not sure she's 100% done, but what I am sure of is that if I keep messing with her, I'm going to mess her up. I need to let her dry completely. So I'm going to set her aside. And how are we doing with time? Doing good with time. I'm going to start another one, but I want to start this one a little bit differently, and I'm going to go ahead and brayer over the whole thing with white or with yellow. So I think I'm going to brayer over this with some white with my little teeny tiny brayer and just push all that back. And just start from a different place. So I still have the texture and the pattern under there, but I want to just try something different. And then I'm just going to clean off my brayer there for next time. I'm going to get this one nice and dry, and then I'm going to start drawing another face. Thank you, Marion. I think the hardest part is to create that consistency because, I love all kinds of art. That got hot, hot, hot to the touch. Surprisingly hot. Okay, so time for another face. Always both the fun and the challenging part, right, is bringing in the new face. And so I'm feeling kind of drawn to this face and kind of the look on her face and her sort of, wild, crazy hair here. So I think that's the one I'm going to focus on drawing next. And you can see her face is a big oval and that she's taking up in this, the dimensions aren't quite the same, but, like probably almost 2/3, just, slightly more than a half of the card is her face. And that's kind of the direction these have all ended up going is we have a large face with the focus on the face. There could be suits with somewhat different styles. There absolutely could be. We'll see. We'll see where it all goes. Right now, I don't have a concept in mind for suits, but we'll see. Thank you for the suggestion because that always, I love your suggestions and they always, sort of jog something or inspire me to think differently about things, which I appreciate from all of you. All right, and then we kind of see a little bit of a shoulder here. And then she has a lot of this long flowy hair where we only are seeing, part of an eye, and her hair takes up most of the card, right? So all of this for her is sort of hair and texture. And we actually ended up with a little bit of a body there, and then there's another little, sort of piece of shoulder here. She's got kind of a cute little tank top on there. And I don't need to draw the hair necessarily, right? But, if I remembering that hair goes up above the head, there's a lot of room for having some fun with hair in there. And then I also pulled out this morning when I was poking around a couple of my favorite stencils. So I have a butterfly and moth stencil that is fun. That one almost looks kind of like almost like a little wasp or bee or something. So I'm wondering if maybe she's going to get a different little kind of critter on here. This is in one of my very first stencils ever was this dragonfly stencil, but I'm thinking, no, it's not going to be too big. We might get part of a dragonfly on here. Bye, Marion. Have a great weekend. I may be, I'm having so much fun with this. I may be back. Tomorrow's Friday, right? So I think I'll come back tomorrow as well. All right, and so then I want to make sure she has kind of a long, narrow face. And I just want to make sure I get those proportions right. So I'm going to kind of go ahead and draw in those guidelines for where I want things to be so that we make sure, even though she's kind of abstract, that we're getting things lined up the way that we want them so that my proportions are correct no matter what. So this one, she has this kind of funny, interesting, long sort of nose and mouth. Make that nose maybe even a little more pronounced. And she has kind of this big, full mouth. And I kind of loved the look on her face. I'm not sure what it was about how this one came out, but she just has this sort of, soulful look about her. And I'm thinking all these are kind of looking maybe a little youthful, and maybe one of my opportunities for growth and practice here is going to be to create a deck that definitely has some older women that, feel like they represent me or represent women in midlife. So that'll take some drawing practice. And I think I want to see just a little bit more over here. And remember, I'm not worried about, if everything is perfect at this stage. I want to sort of just get everything aligned and on the page. And then we'll see where we get to. She's going to have a little bit of a neck in there. All right, how am I doing for time? I got a little bit more time here before I got to go get ready for the next thing. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting some color down on her. And the more I'm looking at this one, the more I'm liking it and noticing it just needs a little bit more white highlights. But sometimes I just have to set it aside to see that. So the last detail on this one would be to come back with a little bit of white highlight. And I'm thinking she needs some purple here. So I'm going to get quite a bit of that. Actually, the blue here is probably the lighter color. So I think I need a lot of blue, tiny bit of magenta, and maybe some white. So that's still pretty blue. I think I want it to be a little more pinky. There we go. And sometimes I don't know until, because this is craft colored, right? Like sometimes I need to get it on to the white of the page to see. It's probably a little lighter than I wanted. Get some more white. But you got to just keep playing till you get the color. Yeah, that's better. Want it a little more red, less blue. And she does have kind of a high forehead here in our drawing. So this is going to be a lot of purple in the background because it's eventually going to be all hair. But this is going to just give me some direction for where I'm going with the other parts. And that looks right now like, wow, that's a lot of purple. But again, it's just the first layer, just the first layer. And that was just enough purple to get that first layer on there. It's not even a solid layer, it's still patchy, right? Can see. All right. And then how about if we come in with some yellow, and it's going to probably blend a little bit with where that purple is still wet and end up being a little bit brown, but I just want to get some color down. A little bit bigger shoulder there. Okay, we're just going to paint that out and we'll come back in with detail later. So now she looks kind of creepy with that face sticking out. But it's all good, just a beginning. So I won't finish this one today, but I'll at least get some of that base color down. And looking at her face, thinking about where do I want to go, definitely need some blue on here. Just get some undercolors going. And she is definitely in the messy middle, and it's all good right now, right? It's all good. So she's got her chest down here. I think what she's missing is a neck. So that's what's feeling not quite right in the drawing, was that she needed more of a neck. Okay, more white. All right, this is fascinating. This might be one that gets gessoed over and go again. So I loved the drawing, not sure where I'm going at the moment. And, you know, my belief is always that everything is paint overable. I didn't do the black outlines first, and I usually do that. And I can also just come in with the baby wipe and push some of those colors back a little bit. So that helps a ton. And that actually is way more interesting looking already, and it's kind of settling into the gesso and creating these sort of cool crackle effects. Like, more of that, please. Okay, so where did my drawing go? So her face feels good, like in terms of the structure of her face and everything, and her chin. But what got lost was sort of the variation down here. So I'm thinking what she needs is more of a neck, which she didn't have a ton of in that original picture. And that's kind of what's mixing here. Her body's kind of turned away from us, but she definitely needs a neck. I think that's one of the things that was bugging me there, was we weren't seeing her neck. All right, where is that black posca? It keeps disappearing on me. So I'm going to come back in boldly and get these shapes back on the page. So I know where I'm going. Because I've lost track of my structure, so I just need to bring that back. Bring her chin back so we can see her face peeking out of the curtain of her hair. And then we can see her neck and her shoulder. And then we miss this other little shoulder there, is kind of what maybe feels like it's missing. All right, that's feeling better. Feels like she's popping back out again. Now we can see what's happening. That needs to go. So she's starting to have a little bit of crazy character and dimension, which is feeling way better. The colors are kind of cool, liking the underpainting, but she just needed more structure because it got a little blobby where I couldn't quite see what was happening. And I'm probably wanting a much thinner, get her eyes back in there, but we need, okay, that one's not working at all. There we go. Now she won't look so creepy. She'll start to have some character. Let's give her some bright green eyes, which means we're probably going to come in with some of that green in a few other places. And that'll come back in with a lot more dimension, but we'll let that dry. Something's still not quite right here, but I'm going to figure it out later. And I like where the face is going now. It's making more sense. It just needs more of our color blocking. All right, got that one too black, but we'll let it dry and then come back in and fix it up. Let's give her some actual eyes here. She's very different looking, right? And I think once that we get the hair in there, I'm kind of actually liking the sort of undercolors of her face right now, and I'm hesitant to change it up too much because I think it's kind of interesting looking. I have a lot of paint left on my palette, so I'm going to take that paint and paint some backgrounds for other cards. She needs some cheeks in here. All right, it's a start. This is another one that it's like, okay, it's time maybe to just, you know, step away. But I'm kind of liking where she's going. She's interesting. Her face is interesting. And her beautiful mass of hair. Once we get texture added there, I think then we're going to be able to see where we're going. And she just has this beautiful sort of curtain fall of hair. And that gives us all these fun spaces to add symbols and marks and patterns. I feel like her face ended up being a little bit of a happy accident. Okay, so now she's starting to come together. And so now it feels like she's coming together kind of fast and interestingly. And she's going to look a little different from the others, but hopefully not too different. I kind of like that blue of her face. And maybe we're going to bring that blue in. So I'm in that, oh my gosh, okay, now I don't want to stop, but I have to go teach soon and I got to go get cleaned up and out of my PJs for teaching. All right, see if we can bring that green back a little bit better. All right, she's fascinating and she is definitely gonna want a little something something. I'm thinking maybe one of these pretty dragonflies. And I'm going to paint the dragonfly in white and then we'll decide what color it needs to be later. I know, right? It came together quicker than I thought she would when I wasn't sure where I was going. But I love dragonflies and dragonfly symbolism, and I can color this. And right now she's very dark, so she needs a lot more color, right? A lot more pattern and imagery added. Brighten that light back up a little bit. But fun. She's off to a good start, but I am sadly out of time. I wish I could sit here and paint all day, but so far we're having success with where these different images, and so we're two faces in and a third on the go. I'll be back tomorrow for day 4 and we'll see how far we get. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me live or catching the recording, and so appreciate you. Please hit like and subscribe on the video to let me know you stopped by and that this is something worthy of watching for others. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful day. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.